Alright, so my last iteration of this video wasn't that good, so I'm making a better one. And so this is basically you and your life, your past, present, your future, your memories, everything that your brain addresses and stuff. And the brain does address things. It's just that um, depending on the type of individual you are, like your body is probably reacting stronger than your brain, or your brain's reacting stronger than your body and stuff. Um, Either because but it's um, however, you, like when thinking about applying the brain to life and stuff, a person, there's a point of diminishing returns and stuff, right? But it's not, but that graph has a lot of relations behind it and stuff that lead up to that stuff. If somebody's purely focused on the analytical aspect, they're not necessarily incorporating everything that can be pertinent, and they're not necessarily questioning the basis on which they're constructing those terms. So even if they analyze it linguistically and stuff, like with just human language words, regardless of the language that's being thought in. So so with that point of diminishing returns actually means actually signifies either that the person's approach is insufficient and stuff to take them to their next paradise or the greater paradise in their life. Paradise here is not referred to in the spiritual sense. So or they've just been kind of generally been doing the same thing over and over because you know the, they become a slave to their character, and their characters become their master and stuff. And um, so with that, um, now look, it's just keeping focus on that tipping point there and stuff. The extent, your level and quality and extent of creativity is where you break past that point and stuff. That's where you break past the plateaus in your life and stuff. Maybe your income is and there's different areas to focus on. Like you have like your income, your health, the lives of your loved ones and stuff like that. You have like wider society and stuff, which is actually is always an inescapable priority and stuff. Society, the collective and stuff is always a non-negotiable priority and stuff. You a person has to strike a deal between their life and society and stuff, because this is the mindset that leads to social decay and degradation and stuff. People not caring about how their actions and words, or how the quality of the good things they do, or how, the severity of the bad things they do affect the wider circumstance. So um, so that's why. Um, and so now going to this concept in this diagram here that I made and stuff in the previous episode, um, there's between your psychology, your mind and stuff, as connected to your body and stuff, there is a bidirectional flow of information. It's not necessarily duplex and stuff, full duplex, because full duplex can imply that things can be sent and received at the same time and stuff, which was a mistake of language that I had made previously, um, which is why I made this diagram and stuff too, because I wanted to pre-ground my argument so what I'm actually trying to communicate is understood, and because of the I don't know, I guess my environment just overemphasized language too much. So, which is not good and stuff. I should probably train myself to go back and being predominantly visual and stuff, because I just feel like my thoughts are empty. Anyway, so with this bidirectional flow of information, there's a termination point between, circumstance and your own thoughts. This termination point is probably where the circumstance and these basic thoughts here described in this thought bubble and stuff are described. I mean, this is probably like a unifying relation point here and stuff that um, that is probably processed by the brain or not and stuff. But there is a vertex and stuff. And And the vertex is there because it's meaningful. And a- and everything here I'm saying is true. So hmm. so going here, so yeah, with this bidirectional flow of information and stuff, as time passes through life and stuff, you get time to improve this quality of information here. That's described. I'm circling with the mouse here, um, and that's actually that's actually what your address. That's actually what you interact with and address with. Either you do it personally, or you use tools, or you delegate to another worker or a person, another operator and stuff. But this is essentially the model of your individual existence. And this is why education is so important, because when you get educated and stuff, you're actually improving this flow of information and you're creating more possibilities for your life. And um, you have to be very careful of the GIGO aspect of it, the GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, and stuff, because if you're not questioning what you're being told or being exposed to and stuff, and not thinking critically to improve this flow of information and keep this flow of information as good as possible, then you could really it becomes a waste of time and energy, honestly. And you could end up in dire straits. And I talked about what happens to people who don't pay attention to details in another video on this channel. I would recommend looking at that. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is why it's very important to keep a healthy, strong mind, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're doing, because some occupations, some pastimes, a way of spending time, they come with hazards, threats, and attacks, and you have to address that and stuff. Um, Nobody's telling you to live turtled up like a coward and stuff, or anything like that, or to be afraid, but you know, stay, keep a healthy and strong mind to make the right decisions and respond to things correctly and stuff. If that means having sharper senses, do it. If that means being, more attentive to and thoughtful on the inside of your mind and stuff, maybe there's like calcification of the pineal gland or something, or there's some problems with brain chemistry, or maybe you had a previous brain injury or whatever. Address it, take care of it. You know, or maybe if it means there's a physical health issue that's interfering with it, address it, take care of it. You know, um, I have this channel has guides on a good way of addressing your health in a practical way. That doesn't necessarily make doctors 30 times more busy than they need to be. So since let's be real, all the doctors have a huge backlog of patients in this country. There's like about 700,000 doctors, but there's like 100 million patients and stuff because of the horrible leadership calls that have been made, from the past up until now and stuff. One recent horrible leadership call was how the government and health administration addressed the coronavirus pandemic in 2020 and stuff. It eventually led to around 3 million people dying. Um, and yeah, um, that's just one example of many. Those bad leadership calls. People can die, people lose their jobs, people get injured. Um, People they lose their boyfriend or girlfriend, their husband or wife. They lose their son or daughter, um or or their nephew or other child and stuff. And um businesses collapse and stuff. Those bad leadership calls, they have a huge consequence, which is why I talked about the overemphasis on politics and stuff. The politics aspect of it and stuff has too much with creating presentations and manipulating people's beliefs about what's going on and what's going to happen and stuff. And um, the order of priority needs to be with truth and science, math, and that type of stuff. Those you know and it has to be, the foundation eventually has to build from that. And if people who don't understand it shouldn't be addressing it, honestly, and stuff like it's, there's um there is too much of a disconnect from experts and educated people that know about these topics and can think critically and stuff, um, in the midst of, highly consequential processes like that, those top-down processes that affect potentially millions of people. And that's you know it's a sign that, um, that better education and more widespread education is needed. Um, so with that, if you're getting, it's regardless of what like supplemental education programs are good and stuff, like the one that I have here on the YouTube channel and stuff. And um, but there's also, uh, you know, there's good universities and bad ones. Sorry, um, if you're in a school that has poor accreditation or does not encourage you to develop as a person or whatever, then um, that's a bad school. And I visited bad schools and stuff. I've been in schools where they would protest people out of the library because of ethno-religious differences. Um, Schools that where gangs would come on campus and stuff, and um, which resulted in another gang having to move them out and stuff, and uh, schools where people were threatening violence, and stuff like that. Schools where people were attempting rape. Um, you know, so some schools, really, really have a problem, and the administration there, the leaders there, they don't make it a priority to, keep things about the purpose of the university and stuff. It's not just for people to learn about the world and stuff, but it's for people to not deal with chaos and all the politics and stuff. Um, so yeah, you have to be highly selective towards the university you're going to. You should try to get it to the best university possible and stuff. It, um, as hard as you can and stuff. And regardless of what you do, make the most of it and stuff. There are military schools. You've got Ivy League colleges or Ivy League universities and stuff. You've got schools like Caltech and MIT and stuff like that. Um, you know, the uh, you have schools like for the profoundly gifted and stuff like that. There's actually many of them a person can access in the United States, and yeah, you should go for it. You should go for it. You know, and if you can't for whatever reason, you know, study stuff on the side. You know, there's no excuse. There's no excuse not to become educated. There's public libraries that have. You can get a library card for like a few dollars a month, or for free, um, and you can start from there. There's probably plenty of up-to-date books or books that have reasonable, grounded information you can apply. Because this is the thing about book learning and stuff. Um, book learning and stuff, you're not just thinking about what it's telling you and stuff, but you're thinking about how it applies to the process or a process you're getting into, or you're thinking about how it's building a skill or something like that. The book is adding to you, and and um, not every word or everything is going to be applicable or up to date or accurate and stuff. So in reading these books and stuff, um, filter it out and stuff. You need to have good note taking methods and stuff. Like even with um, you know, but but there's exceptions to that too. Like for example, chemistry books. Um, those are pretty grounded and stuff. Chemical reactions are highly consistent and stuff. Like they factor out all of the stuff very well and stuff. Scientists are extremely good at what they do. Um, then you have books on IT systems right here. This is the one I'm reading right now. I've read about 1,100 pages of it. I think I remember most of it now, but uh, but I mean, not just because I read it, but because I've been in IT for 10 years. So um it's just that I didn't have the time or energy to get the certifications and stuff. I could just fix all the systems and maintain and repair them um without any problem. When I was just in 2013 stuff, like I could talk about every possible issue area with Windows and stuff off the top of my head. And but yeah, so that's going on a tangent and stuff. Going back to the point and stuff, when you're book learning, um, you you you're given facts and stuff for a lot of what they're saying, and they're telling you best practices from people um, who might still have more experience than you and stuff. Like the authors of this book and stuff, they have equal or better experience to me and stuff. I respect it. Because, a person might be in the field for a long time. It doesn't necessarily mean they know about all of the facts and situations and stuff like that. So that number of like X years of experience and stuff doesn't mean what a person thinks it means. Um, and yeah, you want to keep a visual idea in your mind of what's being talked about and stuff, and understand what you're going to be, what is to do with this knowledge. Um, and if you want to build your own reference guides and stuff or whatever to make yourself better at the occupation you're getting into, um, then yeah. But just understand this about the United States job economy and stuff. Most people actually end up, many people actually end up having to work in areas unrelated to their field of study and stuff. Um, there's uh, it's very few countries around the world actually do it correctly, where it's like, okay, no, we're training an educating person for this job, and they're going to be placed in this, and we place them in this job, and they're paid adequately and stuff. Um, Germany's one country that does that. Um, Probably Switzerland does it too and stuff. The cultures are similar because they speak a common language and have a common history. Maybe Austria too. Uh, Not sure. Um, but yeah. Uh, um, what I mean, can I think of any other countries that are like this? Maybe the UK as well. Uh, maybe Canada. Not sure. Um, could be so many places. But I don't think it has as much to do with country as it has to do with like your like cultural zone and stuff. Like like for example, if you were to be in the military and stuff, you're getting trained and educated for that specific job you're doing and stuff, and they're gonna get you there and stuff. You're not gonna be made to feel like you can't do anything. Um, But the problem in the United States is that pretty much everybody's made to feel like they can't do something all the time because of the constant harmful exposures and all this consumerist commercial nonsense and stuff. People telling you that, oh, your job's been taken or blah blah blah. Um, and stuff like that. Um, Stuff like that can really make a person feel like that their efforts are for nothing. But again, this goes back to this diagram. I said, you have this flow of information, which is helping you address this material, and so as long as you have a strong, healthy mind and blah blah blah, and you make the right decisions, you're gonna be successful anyway. And if you're not successful the first time, you got to understand that in this pursuit of 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 doing greater things, becoming greater and stuff, you know, there might be setbacks, but setbacks aren't necessarily end. You might need to work, you might need to do extra work, and that's fine and stuff. Because after that work, you might get a better circumstance and stuff. And if you don't um, if it doesn't take work and stuff, you might have to fight for it. And you know, and that's the reality. You either address that, you either address having to fight or work or be set back and stuff, or you don't. And if you don't, You're just letting life happen. Life's gonna steamroll all over you. Just a fact. So yeah, this I've more than proven my point and stuff for people that actually paid attention to what I'm saying and stuff. I can prove, the existence of every piece of this is provable and stuff. In so many circumstances in the United States. So, you know, don't um, if you have a dream or want your life to better, don't give up for anything. Don't let anybody try to get in your way or tell you um, that you're wrong for doing what you're doing in any way, because those people are stupid. Okay, they're just stupid, weak, or crazy people, and because they're just being stupid. And if you need to tell them straight up, like, you're an idiot, you're being a drag to me and stuff, um, because of in that moment that they're telling you this, that they're kind of trolling you and giving you this nonsense and stuff, then do it. And if you have to fight that person because they can't handle the truth and stuff, address that and stuff. Because I'm not going to tell you to do something and get in trouble. I'm just not. Um, it wouldn't be a right or responsible thing as a teacher or as professor, coach, instructor, whatever you want to call me and stuff. Um, but yeah.